Hello, my name is Kyle Lucci, and I'm going to be doing a code review for my CS 499 final project for my Capstone course for my computer science degree at Southern New Hampshire University. I will be using a previous project that I've already started from my CS 360 mobile architecture and programming class to cover the three main categories of the final project. I'm using just one project to capture all three of the categories because it was the course that I felt I grasped and understood the most out of all my computer science courses that I've taken. And I feel the most confident that I can provide a final product that I can be happy and confident with its working ability. Luckily, the project has areas that I know I can both improve on and add to, as well as meet all the needed categories to provide a working and meaningful product for the final project. My project for CS360 is an Android weight tracker application, which a user will be able to log in, input a goal weight, input a starting weight, and track their weight daily with user input as to what their weight is. That's the overall simple basis of the usability of the application. There also is going to be other elements of the application that I'll be getting to when I go through the checklist for the code review that I haven't implemented yet, but that I'm actively working on for the final product. The three main categories that I need to cover are software design and engineering, algorithm and data structures, and databases. For software design and engineering, I'm going to be improving the overall layout of the application. The way that I put it is kind of, make it more professional. Right now, the layout that I have that you're going to see here in a minute when I open Android Studio is, I don't want to say basic or archaic. It's just a simple, usable form of the application. And I know that aesthetically I can improve on it to make it more of a, worldwide usable mainstream application. For algorithm and data structures, I'm going to be improving not only how usable the code is that I'm inputting into the application, but how efficient the code is as well. I know there's some areas that I may be using some long-winded coding formats to do while it is usable, and that I'm able to run the application in those elements as I would like. I know that I could probably improve upon those for not only the application's efficiency, but my efficiency moving forward if I want to implement those callouts in other areas of the application. And for databases, I'm going to be implementing two databases that I don't have in there yet, but I'm actively working on. I'm going to be using SQLite in Android Studio to get that done. Those two databases I'm going to cover whenever I give a little tour in Android Studio of my application. Now for the checklist for the code review, the categories I need to scrub my code for to ensure I'm covering all my bases are structure, documentation, variables, arithmetic operations, loops and branches, and defensive programming. Jumping into the code, we're going to be using Android Studio today. I really like working with Android Studio because I'm really a visual, person when it comes to developing projects, both in personal time, school time, and in my current career. So having an application that I'm working with that I can input the code, see what it's doing in real time with the layouts, as well as running it and seeing it in real time is something that has helped me kind of make mistakes and correct them. I don't want to say on the fly, but a lot quicker than it would be if I was developing other IDEs such as Eclipse. I would have to, implement the code, not see any errors, run the code. It's not doing what I wanted to do, go back and try to solve the problem. And it was always kind of difficult for me to not see that happening in real time. So it's nice for here that I can, for example, go into my login screen here and I can have the code here, I can have the design here, and I can split it right here and see everything, working all at once and highlight things, see where it is in the code, and go from there. It's really helped me be able to not only learn a great deal in a short amount of time, for the application, but also develop a proper working application. Taking a look at the first category, which is structure, we're going to be moving over to some of my Java classes. The overall structure of the application, right now I have 5 main screens. Well, I'd say 2 main screens and 3 secondary screens, quote unquote, for now. The main screen, which I have pulled up here, or one of the main screens, is the login activity, which is the screen that I showed right here. I then have my main activity. I have my wait activity, which doesn't have anything in it for now. And then my delete activity and history activity, which are going to look the same as my wait activity right now until I get some coding in that. Right now for my login activity, it directly correlates with my login screen. So basically the overall layout is going to be, log into the application, move over to the main screen. I have the 3 different categories right here, which again, as I mentioned, I'm going to be updating this to make it look a little less, I guess, gimmicky, I want to say, and kind of like very third-party-ish. From here, you can go to add wait, delete wait, or your history screens. I do have my wait addition screen right here. And then the other 2 screens for the delete activity and history activity I'm going to be implementing, as well as I want to try to incorporate a settings screen where you can kind of mess around with the user's account and just like very basic low-level things like that. In another test application that I've been developing, on this main screen here, I've been working in Android Studio with some toolbars and trying to see what the best way to implement the toolbars is going to be. I would like to have sort of like you see on the traditional Android screen at the bottom. I want to have a toolbar where I can have little drawers pull up, have different options within those drawers. I'm not 100% certain what the layout is going to be like yet on those, but I like to have an element where I say, okay, I want 3 main drawers. What do I want in those drawers? And I kind of mess around with a couple things and kind of go on the fly to see what works best, what doesn't work best, based off of other applications that I use on a daily basis that I take elements from, enjoy those elements, and put it into my application. When it comes to consistencies in my code, once I was able to get the main button clicks down, that's one of the templates that I've used throughout my application. I am running into issues currently when I go to my main activity screen. Login screen and main activity or classes look pretty similar right now, minus obviously some callout changes. I'm running into an issue where when I run the application, I'm able to use the login screen properly, hit the login button, it goes to the main screen, and then from here, it is erroring out, trying to get to the wait addition screen, and I'm still working through that to figure out where I'm going wrong with my button clicks. I've also been looking into other ways to implement button clicks than using the on-click listener. So far, it seems a lot of those are going to be a lot more complicated than I want to get into, and this seems to be the easiest, most efficient way to do it. I just kind of have to keep scrubbing and figure out where I'm going wrong in my button clicks. For my documentation portion, unfortunately, I really have been lacking with that in that I have 0 documentation or comments inside of my code so that I can use it to my advantage. I've always really tried my best to get comments into the code, but usually it doesn't work very well because I get so caught up with, one element of the project that I run that issue into the ground until I can breathe a little bit and then move on to the next element of the project. So I need to take time and just go ahead and comment and document everything that's going on in my code so far, which in the long run, it's really only going to benefit me so that I don't have to potentially long-wind it and type out common elements, for example, like the button clicks. I can just look through my code real quick, go back to these common elements, and take them and repurpose them for another area in my project. For my variables portion from the start of the project, when you first open a new Android Studios project, the default convention that it gives you for the default Java class is main activity right here. So I just decided to stick with that naming convention for all the classes that I create, in that they're all just going to end in activity. I can name them really whatever I want, and I would just have to change other variables of the project to make sure that activity is where I'm leading to, but it was just easiest to keep it all as, whatever activity that I want. And those directly correlate with my layout slash screens that I create. So it's just the easiest way that I can link all of those screens. On top of that, I tried to name elements of the project, such as my values in my strings table here, in such a way that I can fully understand what I'm using them for, and basically just taking a common sense approach to it. When it comes to, I guess, releasing this app and putting it in the world where open sourcing it and having other programmers be able to use it, I haven't really thought about that too much or focused on that aspect of it, so that I might have a, you know, same name convention for my values. I've kind of just been focusing on myself and ensuring that, if I create a variable, I leave it there, I don't touch it for a couple weeks, I can come back and me personally, I can quickly and easily realize what it's for, where it goes, and move on from there. For my loops, I currently don't have any loops that I can think of in my code, but when I add in my database element that I'm going to be covering here in a minute for getting the user's, desired weight from the database, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be having to use some loops in there to, search through the database, go to line 1, if XYZ is not there, go to line 2. If XYZ is not there, go to line 3, and move on from there. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to incorporate some loops into the database portion of my code. For what I have so far for the code working, I am going to pull up my emulator and show what I have currently right now. So for my username, you can type, enter whatever username you want. You can also use the emulator screen to type whatever you want. For password, same thing, use the keyboard, or if it's an actual Android application, use the text right here. I implemented the hidden text in here in the application so that your password could be hidden. I also want to look into getting one of the little eyes that are crossed out here that a lot of people see in Android applications, to choose it to be able to see their password while they're typing. But currently right now, this element is still being worked on, simply because you can type in whatever you want here, hit the login button, it still takes you to the main menu. That's when my first database is going to come into play, where it's going to store all the new user data. Let me exit this out, and I'm going to rerun it. That's going to come into play when you hit create account. That's going to take you to a new page, which is going to be a new Java class, a new layout screen, and that's where the database is going to come into play. Keeping the user account in there, I'm going to have a username, password, email, name, and a phone number portion. I don't have a lot of usability for the phone number right now, but I'm just trying to build a somewhat robust database just for my own personal experience there, so I can see how much I can store in that database and how much user information I can interact with through the application. From there, like I said, log in. You have the 3 categories right here, which I'm going to be improving upon, as I mentioned earlier, incorporating the toolbar below. This is going to change. It's going to be a lot more professional. I'm not super in love with the graphic that I have up here, although it is, a usable graphic. It doesn't look super professional. But I'm running into an issue right now where in my main screen, I have my 3 buttons right here. I have a button click currently to go to add weight, but whenever I click add weight, it crashes the app. I've implemented this button click in the same way that I've implemented the login click, so I'm not certain why it's crashing when that happens, but that's definitely something I have to work through, so it is a work in progress. The second database that I'm going to be implementing is going to be in this weight addition portion here. This database is going to hold, depending on the user that logs in, it's going to hold a goal weight, it's going to hold a daily weight by month, day, and year, and I also want to implement a small little calculation algorithm that the user can click a button to say how far till goal weight. It's going to see what your current weight is versus what your goal weight is, do calculations, simple calculations, and pull how much you have to go into your goal weight. I'm also going to be implementing a history activity and delete activity that's going to be similar in layout to this, where it shows all your past history. It's going to pull it from the database, and as well as delete activity. If the user wants to delete a certain date or even their entire goal altogether and start with a new goal, they can do that. So it's going to be manipulating two databases at once, with the user's login database directly connected to the weight database. And currently right now, that is all that I have for my final project at this point. Like I said, definitely still a work in progress, but I'm excited to keep working on it, keep implementing the things that I want to implement, and by the time it's done, it's going to be a well-polished and usable product. Thanks.